So Machete is based on our beloved, to some people, trailer that we saw in the Grindhouse movie that was directed by Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino. It's about a federale played by Danny Trejo, who has been kind of kicked out of the service and framed for a crime, framed for an assassination, and now he's out for revenge, and he's going to kill the entire city of Austin.
There you go. Take a look at the trailer.
I saw the file. Rogue federal agent. Ruled by a sense of destiny. Machete. I know what they did to your family. Machete. I know the legend. That's him.
CIA, FBI, DEA all rolled up into one. He's coming after us.
So there you go. That's Machete. I think you got the idea of it. What is it about Danny Trejo that sort of makes his overwhelming ugliness sort of almost sexy?
You know, Trejo's great. He's one of those guys, he's shown up in movies for years.
Yeah.
He's kind of a go-to bad guy, and he's got that unique look. There's nobody else that looks like him, and he's kind of been in the background for a long time. And I think that it's that unique look, and partly there's a reality to him. I mean, here's a guy who did hard time.
Yeah.
So when he makes that look, like, I'm going to get you. Like,
right, you think there's something.
You know he's going to get you.
Totally
right?
genuine.
In fact, I should interrupt and say that there is a great documentary about his life and how he's come up and how he got his start in the business, and talks about his history of selling drugs, I think, and that's what got him in jail, or it was either that or assault, something that got him in jail.
I think it was actually a white collar criminal.
Yeah, exactly. Embezzlement.
Yeah,
exactly.
A lot of jaywalking. I think it was accumulation of jaywalking
yeah,
tickets, and they finally took him in.
He worked at AIG. So let's talk a little bit, Jonathan, about the style of Machete.
Right. It's very much the 70s B movie style, which you probably recognize from Planet Terror, which was Rodriguez's part of Grindhouse. And if you're a fan of that look, I guess it's all right. I was down on this movie. I mean, it's like I wanted to like it. I mean, it has interesting political aspects to it, but I think it's really hard to overcome the fact that Robert Rodriguez cannot write. And he also does not, in my opinion, does not direct performances very well. I mean, I think his best two movies are Sin City, which obviously he didn't have to write and was basically storyboarded for him, and he was able to execute it very, very well and loved the comic book. And then the other one would be El Mariachi, which is always going to be his greatest achievement, you know, for making it so cheap. But just listening.
I don't think anybody would like to hear that their greatest achievement is already over, especially when you're Robert Rodriguez's age.
Right. Well, hopefully he's got some more stuff to do. But I mean, at this point, I feel like it'll always be his great accomplishment that he got that movie made, that it looks as good as it did, and that
with so little money.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I read his book, Rebel Without a Crew, and which really taught me a lot about. For me, was like the Bible of no budget, low budget filmmaking, and was really just refreshing and nice to read. But still, with this one, it's just when people talk, I just cringe the whole time.
Yeah, there's a moment when Jessica Alba delivers a sort of, you know, and it's hard to tell in this movie whether a speech is supposed to be received as actually rousing or whether they're winking at what's supposed to be rousing. But I just found it painful and poorly written, poorly executed,
yes,
and a
it is
brutal
grating.
look away moment. I sense that you got more out of this than others.
Only because I'd had a bunch to drink. I will be the first to admit that I went into this movie loaded. I had a few drinks at a time because I knew what I was getting into.
Yeah.
This is not art. This is, you know, if you've seen the trailer that showed up in Grindhouse, you kind of know what to expect. And really, to the point that the movie strains itself to get some of the more iconic shots from the trailer into the movie that from a story standpoint don't fit in there at all. Right?
Yeah.
That, you know, one of the iconic images from that original trailer is him with the Gatling gun on the bike jumping over this explosion. Like the way that gets shoehorned into the movie doesn't make any sense to the story. But you know what? After 3 or 4 margaritas, I didn't care. Yeah, this movie was awesome.
Well, you know, I think that's a very fair point because there were a couple of moments in the story that totally, well, first let's talk about the style real quick because it did have that interesting 70s B-movie style. But then that just wears off. and it wore off pretty quickly. And then not so much that the style gets dull, but the style, then you start paying attention to the style and the fact that the style can't keep up with a story that doesn't sustain itself. And there were a couple of strange moments I found where it seemed like there was clearly a voiceover added to sort of help the story, but it was so unnecessary because there's so many other parts where it falls apart. I'm like, why did you need to? There's a point where Michelle Rodriguez has a line that was clearly added in post where she explains that she trusted that Danny Trejo gave her something for a reason, and I thought, well, who the hell cares? There have already been 9 breakdowns, and there's going to be 23 more breakdowns. What did you? No, we got to get this in, or people aren't going to buy the next 45 minutes of the movie.
Well, and part of it is, you know, if we're really going to analyze this movie, can you do a whole movie based on stunt casting between this and Expendables? No, you really can't.
Yeah.
Right. I think that from a story standpoint, there's a lot of problems with this movie. From a performance standpoint, you know, the people who can act without direction do okay. You know, I mean, De Niro shows up and does what he does. You know, his accent fades in and out.
I'm a big fan of Jeff Fahey, actually.
Jeff Fahey is, you know, I
He
think
actually
it's
was
fine.
all right. I mean, he seemed like a great B movie actor. You know, who had
you know,
done something once. And
But, you know, again, I think that if you go into this, I think you have to look at this almost as just trash. It's like, you know, I mean, there's nothing to this movie, and that's kind of what I liked about it. It's violent, it's trashy, it's over the top, it's really offensive, and you know, it's.
Well, I don't want to go too long on it, but let's talk a little bit before we go about the political sort of. They're not even undertones, the political overtones of it.
right. I mean, I think to some degree it's kind of a fantasy of, you know, of Mexican immigrants. The idea, I mean, there's this network where Michelle Rodriguez's character, who is helping bring people across the border, that
By the way, who's her trainer?
I don't know,
Man.
but when you get a good shot of her bare midriff at the end, which
I will say she's never looked hotter than she
That is
looks in
a
this movie.
good-looking woman. All
we're
right,
in
sorry. Continue.
causing revolution in short shorts as it should be done. But there is talk about immigration. There's talk about
It's not just talk about immigration. That's the sort of whole theme, which I don't think we got across here. It's about sort of a politician whose idea, you know, this is a combination of Sheriff Joe, you know,
Arpaio,
Sheriff Joe Arpaio in Maricopa County, and you know, and are sort of our most vehement anti-immigration politicians, and you know, Governor Jan Brewer sort of coming together as a state senator, and this time is Texas, to sort of really demonize Mexican immigrants.
Right, demonizing immigrants to gain political power, but then there's the shady side where the politician is working with Steven Seagal, who is a Mexican drug lord.
When is he due, by the way?
Yes, he's getting ready to play Santa Claus. I think he's put on some pounds.
I know he has a couple of kids, but I think they're both boys. So let's all keep our fingers crossed that he's about to have a daughter.
Right. I mean, those political they are interesting, but once again, they're poorly delivered. There are these two kind of bodyguards who occasionally have these discussions like, "Isn't it funny how like we?"
Yeah, that didn't work at all.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm sure they're just Robert Rodriguez's pals who he didn't have to pay. They're like, "Hey, can you speak words?" Yeah, go speak some words.
The cooks too, the white cook and the Mexican cook too. I just thought that all fell incredibly flat.
Yeah, I mean, it's
totally.
an interesting idea. I mean, I feel like this movie would have been better as like a drunken discussion with your buddies, like, hey, wouldn't it be great if we could make like this movie?
That's what Matt had.
See,
He had the drunken discussion.
I-
All right, real quick, let's get we'll get some ratings here. The one thing that I will say is that I see you got to see it as trash, but I think it got boring, which makes it harder to see it as fun trash.
Yeah, see, I'd had too much to drink to get
well,
there. I just getting crazier and crazier, and I loved it, and I want to see Machete Kills, and I want to see Machete Kills again.
Machete Kills
and
again.
I went big on this movie. It's trash. I gave it an 8.
Hey, that's a nice, that's a big rating. When it says, you know, Machete Returns and I thought this title has to be Machete Returns, but it was.
It was even better than that.
No, I think it would have been better as Machete Returns.
Yeah, so they end it with some teasers that there are going to be
obviously.
sequels to it.
Yeah, and I do love Danny Trejo, and it's great to see him in other than a sort of supporting character role. I gave it a what the hell did I give it? I gave it a 5.
I was down on it. I mean, like I said, I didn't like the acting. I didn't think the writing was particularly good. The action I thought wasn't particularly cool or interesting. I gave it a 4.
4. Wow, so you come in at the low end. Again, I sort of in the middle because you know what to expect, and I thought it sort of half delivered what you expect. That makes the overall rating for Machete massively pumped up by Matt Etchity to a 5.7 for Machete.
You know, my review is the equivalent of beer goggles.
Yeah, totally good. I mean, if anyone has ever janked up a review, Matt Atchity has come through.